This is a talk for the adults. You ever have so many thoughts whirling through your head that you just have a hard time even knowing where to begin, much less how to crystallize them? That's kind of what I'm going through right now. I want to talk just some general observations about the artistic process, as it were, of especially as it relates to this hobby, music production, home audio recording, home audio production, songwriting, all of it. Especially as it relates to doing it really, really underground. I mean, it's all convoluted, but yeah, general observations. So one thing I miss about the old days with some of my audio friends was like doing something really unusual, doing something, you might even say daring. The video is going to be choppy. I've got some connection issues with my Wi-Fi hub. But anyway, yeah, so I remember conversations, that went, something like this. Two versions of, a back and forth in the same sort of situation. You've done something new. You've done something daring, you might say. And it might be something that you're real sure of or something that you're not so sure of. But anyway, it's unusual. It's out of the box, and you're bouncing it off of a buddy, right? And you got it queued up, like I've got it queued up on the screen here, and there's those big phallic waveforms. It's all been mastered. Really happy with it, and kind of intrigued by it. Want to know what your buddy has to say, and you're about 10, 15, maybe 20 seconds into it, and the first words out of his mouth are something like, "Dude, what the fuck is this?" And so the answer might be, what do you mean? It might be a sort of bewildered, what do you mean? Or a genuinely curious, what do you mean? Or a somewhat concerned, what do you mean? Depends on how satisfied you are with it in and of yourself, right? Depends on how invested you are in his opinion. Or the exchange could go something like this: 10, 15, 20 seconds into it, and your buddy says, "Dude, what the fuck is this?" And you go, "I know, right?" This is a talk for the adults, not knocking you if you're younger, but if you're older, you might not have these memories or experiences, some of the things that I'm going to allude to in this talk. I think I'm going to call this Surrender to Shoegaze, and then in parentheses, Notes from the Underground. Or maybe Notes from the Underground, parentheses, Surrender to Shoegaze. And I'm going to try to keep it as short as I can, although I there's just so much, I've got so much going on that I'd like to talk about, but I'm not quite sure how to talk about some of it. But anyway, if you're really into this stuff, you might be interested in some observations that I have about this whole process, this whole journey. I hate that word journey. It's overused nowadays, but it really is. And a couple of observations about YouTube and the current culture that we find ourselves in, the digital online culture, right? And yeah, being underground, like being really underground. Lots of layers going on here in my stream of consciousness, and I'm kind of trying to find a current and just kind of go with it. And well, that kind of ties into, yeah. So anyways, right. This is one of those, going back to the conversation with an old buddy. This is one of those times where he might go, dude, what the fuck is this? What the fuck are you doing here? And my response would be, I know, right? Exactly in that tone of voice. Exactly with that little bit of a chuckle, right? And I won't even explain it any more than that. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If you know the inflection, you know the inflection. If you know, you know. So, okay, so a little backdrop. So I guess first I'm going to talk about the process and the journey. And, right, so here's a mastered song. And by the way, when I say mastered, I don't mean in the highly technical sense that, the side mids have been put into mono so that there's no phase issues in a dance club. Not like that. When I say mastered, I mean, in my case, mastered means all the little tiny issues that bothered me in the final mix. I work out there's always give and take. There's always, you correct for one thing and it's endless, right? But I have those issues resolved to my satisfaction. And usually it's just kind of a begrudging, oh, okay, all right. It's as far as I can go. Maybe I'll come back to it in a few weeks, but by mastered, I mean that. And by mastered, I mean that I've listened to it through all my different headphones. I've listened to it through different EQ settings in different headphones and speakers. I've listened to it through this cheap little dollar store mono Bluetooth mic. I've listened to it through my smartphone speaker. I've listened to it in the car, both idling and barreling down the highway in all three major EQ settings in the car. And I've gotten it all kind of balanced out more or less to my satisfaction. And almost always there's little things that I'm, never totally content or satisfied with. But that's what I mean. And also by mastering, I mean that, I do have, I'm working on an album. Not that I ever expect it to go anywhere, but I'm working on an album. And I've got a title for it. I've got a, band name. Obviously I'm solo, but the band name is Unity Gain. And the title of the album is going to be The End Will Not Be for Everyone. Which is, I find kind of funny, Unity Gain. Obviously that's a riff on an audio term, Unity Gain. But then like this idea of, hey, Unity Gain, we all rise together. But the end will not be for everyone. I like my little jokes, right? Anyways, the other songs that I'm working on for that album, to make them sound like they belong together on an album. So there are just certain common denominators that I go for in terms of sound, volume, dynamics, clarity, things like that. This is a big departure from everything that I've been working on so far. And that's because, it's essentially shoegaze. It's a shoegaze song. And now, I'm not a shoegaze sort of guy when it comes to audio production. I appreciate shoegaze music. In fact, I really like a lot of it. Not all of it, but a lot of it I do like. I'll never forget the first time I heard My Bloody Valentine. And, God, what was the song called? I'll look it up here in a bit, but I was just, it was a song that it had this bass line. If you don't know anything about My Bloody Valentine, I wish I could play a bit of it, but copyright strikes and stuff like that, so I can't. But, My Bloody Valentine, shoegaze music, and let's just look at it real quick. I'm just not going to be able to organize my thoughts. I give up. Shoegaze music characteristics. All right, so heavy use of guitar effects pedals, creating a dense and distorted sound. Layered guitar textures, often with multiple guitars playing similar parts. Fuzz, reverb, and echo are common effects used to create a hazy or dreamy atmosphere. Bass and drums provide a driving rhythm, often with a focus on atmospheric ambient playing. Vocals and lyrics, often hard to hear or understand vocals. Something I'm not really fond of in the genre. I like to hear what's being sung. I like to be able to make out words. I understand the idea of wanting to treat the human voice as another instrument, but in principle, I'm not down with that in my own work. Okay, so, shit, I forgot to. You can't read this along with me until I do this. All right, this is what I just read here. So, lyrics, yada yada. One thing that it doesn't really mention here is that shoegaze music is very undynamic. And what that means is, My Bloody Valentine was kind of legendary for having all the faders on the mixing board just maxed out. Very loud, very washed out. There's no silence in there. It's like, it's like being in a big, boomy room where, everything is just maximum volume. And you would think that would be terrible, but and I guess for some people's sensibilities, it is terrible. It's definitely not for everyone, but I understand it. I understand the appeal. For those to whom it appeals. So I wanted to talk about power, right? There's different kinds of power, obviously, in all things. And that is also the case with music and music production. One kind of power is punch, right? Mike Tyson power. That's what you get with a lot of dynamics, especially when it's treated with the right kind of compression. I can think of a lot of examples, but like a lot of Rush, for example, very sonically very powerful, very punchy, quite terrorist dynamics, but not done to a ridiculous extreme. Not like cheap, like Nickelback terrorist dynamics, but like really rich, powerful, groovy, just amazingly musical punch. Shoegaze is kind of like it doesn't have that. It's just kind of like you start the song, it's at volume 10, and it stays at volume 10 from beginning to end. It's a space that you're in. It's not like it's not like walking through a building. It's where you walk down a hall, and now you're in the big room, and now you're in a smaller room, and now you're in a dining area. It's just like you're in this space, you're in this room, and that's where you are, and this is what's going on. But it has a different kind of power. And right now I'm speaking specifically of My Bloody Valentine. The song that I heard, the first one that I ever heard by them that absolutely just... hope that's not a copyright strike. That was an accidental play. You Made Me Realize. They're famous for, when they do this live, they'll go into like 20 to 30 minutes interlude of shoegaze noise that gets up to like 120, 130 decibels, right? Another one is, let me see, I looked up there. Yeah. Only Shallow. Only Shallow. That's another one which is like, there's something like, if you never listened to it before, go listen to it. It has a different kind of power that I can only describe by analogy. It's like, okay, there's like punchy power. There's like Bruce Lee power. There's like Mike Tyson power. But there's a different kind of power. Okay, so I remember one time, maybe 10, 12 years ago, I was with long-suffering Mrs. down in a beautiful country called Laos. And I almost drowned. We were in a national park of waterfalls. It was a river coming down a gently sloping hillside with lots of waterfalls and pools, and they didn't look threatening whatsoever. I had this pool with a waterfall in it, and it was about, I would say, like 15 feet in diameter, this pool, with a waterfall coming into it. And I jumped in for a swim, and I was splashing around, and I got too close to that waterfall. It wasn't a huge waterfall either. It was probably like, 5 feet tall waterfall, but quite thick, I got too close to it, and it sucked me down. It sucked me down to the bottom of that pool, which was probably about 6 or 7 feet deep, and it pinned me to the floor of the pool. And I thought I was going to die. I didn't think I was going to make it out of there. I don't know how I did make it out of there. My life flashed before my eyes. I thought about what my wife was going to go through, getting my dead body out of there and getting back to Korea, and it all went through my mind. I saw everything, and yeah, shoegaze music, again, not all of it, but in the case of My Bloody Valentine, man, it has that kind of power. It just has, and a lot of it, and so this kind of touches on another issue that I want to get into, where I'm going with this, is, so in my opinion, a lot of that non-dynamic, expanded My Bloody Valentine shoegaze power is it's pre-digital. Now it's basically their most seminal work came out like right at the dawn of digital audio workstations, early 90s, but they were probably tracking the tape still at that point. And it's an analog sound. It's an analog kind of power. And so this is all kind of as a preface. Who the hell has the time for this? But I have to, to say what's on my mind, I have to take these detours. And anyway, I remember, this was actually not that long ago that I first heard this. Now, all right. So I'll say that. So I remember hearing My Bloody Valentine and hearing that power, and immediately thought about when I almost drowned. It felt the same kind of power. It's kind of like terrifying. If you're sensitive to such things, it's exhilarating, but also just kind of unnerving. The kind of the power that I'm talking about. It has an abandon about it, an excessiveness that it's just hard to describe. It's hard to put into words. And I remember thinking, geez, I would love to do a song like that. Wouldn't it be cool to do a song like that? Just see if I could do it. And sometimes the internal, censor is to be ignored, but sometimes it's to be heeded. And the internal censor said, forget about it. Just forget about it. Don't waste your time. And I thought, right, that's exactly right. Don't even waste your time. Why? Because digital audio workstation, you're working with a digital audio workstation with USB microphones and a digital, audio interface. It's a really great one, in my opinion, but you're never going to, it'll just be an exercise in endless disappointment and frustration. You're just barking up the wrong tree. It just ain't gonna happen. You'd have to be in a real studio, with a real, a big console, with all the faders maxed out, and like big amplifiers and all the pedals that you used to have, and you'd have to do it the right way. And so I thought, yeah. And so I just immediately gave up on the idea. All right, so fast forward the last I don't know, man, I've lost track of the time, lost count of the days since I started this song, which is an old song. It's called Or Does the World Dream Me? And it's from an album that I recorded in the main temple, in the main hall of a Buddhist temple back in, I think the year was 2007, the winter of 2007. And, oddly enough, in somewhat similar circumstances to the My Bloody Valentine situation, in this sense, it was recorded with abandon. And I'm not going to play it for you right now, but there's a video of the session when this song was recorded. And and I was this gong, which is a scary shaman gong, Korean shaman gong, frightens people. It wasn't welcome in that temple, but I used it anyway. And it appears in this song once. But the song, you know, it had a bass player and it had a guitar player. I was banging on this shaman gong, which is in A flat. So the bass player and the guitar player, they tuned their instruments accordingly. Actually, the bass player didn't, but the guitar player did. And, but I was a much younger, wilder man, and big, huge wooden Buddha hall. I might as well. I'm not gonna play the whole thing, but let me see here. Internet. There we go. Let's go to YouTube. Do I really want to do this now? No, because then you might go and like look up the entire album. No, I'm not going to do it. That's still my secret. But man, I was just like wild, and I was bashing the hell out of this thing. And I was singing like, you know, Tom Waits on Bone Machine. And it was wild. It was just, yeah. So I redid this song, you know, 17 years later, in a completely different way. And it was just frustrating the hell out of me. I had, you start out a project with something in mind, a vision, as it were, and certain principles. You know, I have certain principles. I like different parts to be distinct. And I'm pretty old school about how I separate them. I still mainly force myself to use good old-fashioned EQ, dynamic EQ, parametric EQ. I don't do a lot of ducking or sidechain compression, and that's just kind of out of principle. I just don't like it in a lot of cases, for one thing. But so the process of getting things clear and distinct in the sonic space, you know, that begins with arrangement. That begins with the instruments that you choose, and if you're doing different guitar parts, playing the chord progression different places on the neck, using different guitars, or in the case of the audio interface, using I do use amp models. I got no problem with amp models. This thing has great amp models. And you just got to know how to use them. And is it the same thing as the real amps? No, of course not. But if you don't, you just drop that. It's not the same, but it's useful. How do you use it? And with this, this is moving towards. I'm going to talk about how there are tools now at our disposal where they sound so close to having been tracked from the real thing that it's not even funny. Okay, this is all moving. This is all going to culminate. All right. So anyway, I did my best to. I knew I kind of planned out the parts that I wanted, and how I wanted the song to build. And the third verse is kind of a spot where things drop out. It's relatively quiet, as it were. And anyway, I had everything planned out. And it's just a project where I just couldn't get. And I retract, two guitar parts are like sitting on top of each other, trying to be in the same space, and no amount of EQ, no amount of anything would separate them. Different reverbs, nothing worked. It just wasn't working. Panning, spatializers, stereoizers, nothing was working. And these were guitar parts that happened to be, I was using amp models, a lot of heavy stack amp models. I wanted a heavy guitar sound. I went back and tried, retracking some of these guitar parts with clean sounds, and it just it just didn't work. It didn't. It lacked the power that I wanted. It just, anyway, long story short, I was just getting so frustrated. And I would finally think maybe I've got it almost there. And, right. So then I would, mix it down. So here's what the project looks like. Right here, it's up to 17 tracks, and right. So take a look at the. Oops, inadvertently. Okay, I'm just not gonna have this. Don't save. Here's all my plugins. Plugins in the master bus. 7 of them. It's a busy mix, pretty busy. And how many buses I got going on here? Master, vocals, vocal double, wider, 2 tape, reverb. 5 buses that I'm running things through, trying to balance that all out, and mix it down. Put it into my, I always, this is the way I generally do things. I have a separate master file, and I apply some finishing touches. You see, these are all air windows. That's what I'm moving towards. Anyway, I got it so close, but just like no cigar. And, I'm just like, well, Jesus, what do I do? What do I do? I don't want to drop these parts. I want what I want. I had a vision for it. I had something that I was going for. And the main thing that I was going for was power. So a lot of times I will sacrifice a bit of power for clarity. And again, the power that I tend to go after is the dynamic power, the punch power, and but also the power of, and that relates to distinction in the sonic space for that to really work. It just wasn't. And but the kind of like my final attempt, I had the mix down here in the mastering file, and I decided to sort of sit back and soften my focus, as it were, drop my expectations, drop my opinions even, and just kind of listen to it for what it was. I call it softening the focus. Sort of almost like trying to listen to it as if I'm not listening to it with my ears and my brain and all of my preconceived notions and my baggage and everything, but kind of trying to pretend like I'm hearing it for the first time, like I'm someone else hearing it. Is there something in there that is there anything? Can anything come of this? And suddenly, what I realized that what I was hearing was an opportunity. Because what I was hearing was, multiple guitar parts, all, kind of sitting on each other. Not enough distinction. Everything, and again, despite, one of those buses called Widen, because I was using the stereoizing plugin to kind of fan things out. But even then, so long story short, I was like this. Okay, so sometimes there comes a point where your intentions don't matter anymore. It's like the song has a will of its own. The project takes on a will of its own. It takes on a direction of its own. And sometimes the only thing you can do, it's kind of like, I used to do a lot of psychedelics, kind of like when you're shrooming, eat a bunch of shrooms, and it's wisdom to let things take their own course, even if that course might be harrowing or even terrifying. Sometimes the wisest and indeed the only prudent course of action is to surrender. Hug the ground if you have to. But, if the monster comes to devour you, you let yourself be devoured. That kind of thing. You just go into the belly of the beast and see what happens. It was that kind of moment. It was like suddenly I found myself in that kind of space, and it was like, damn, And I remembered hearing that My Bloody Valentine song, and suddenly, it's like this is kind of verging on that. There's some similarities here. And so here was the main problem. Every time that I tried to tweak and massage, and every time I tried to wrestle with the mix to achieve distinction and dynamic power, it's like it just lost its energy. It just didn't have the power that I wanted, and it just wasn't worth it just wasn't right. But I realized this wants to be something else, and so that's what I did. So, man, this has already gone on too long, but it is what it is. Here it is. This is Or Does the World Dream Me? And I'm just gonna play it. I haven't made the video yet, and even if I had, I wouldn't play the video right now because this is about being in the in the sonic space, in the space, you can see from well, if you know what you're looking at when you look at waveforms, you can pretty much tell what you're in for here. You can get an idea. All right? It's it's big, but it's also shaggy. Yeah? Look at it. So anyways, without further ado, play. Now, say what you will about that. Certainly not everybody's cup of tea, that kind of sound. And ordinarily it's not mine. It's not something that I strive after, you know. But say what you will about it. I think that it has a tremendous amount of power. And so, you know, going back to when I first encountered Bloody Valentine, and I thought, man, I'd like to do something like that. But no, because I didn't think it would be possible with what I have here, with the DAW, with the tools that I have. But there it is. It has a raw. What's the word I'm looking for? It has this raw energy to it that to my ear and my brain transcends what I normally think of as being reasonably feasible when you're dealing with digital audio software, digital audio workstations, digital audio devices. It just I'm kind of amazed by it. And so instead of celebrating with a bottle of booze, as I would normally have done in the past, I decided to sit down and talk about it. And so this is the first part of that, is just kind of like talking about my Bloody Valentine, shoegaze, different kinds of power, the way projects can take unexpected turns, the way things can the way things can have a will of their own, and sort of recognizing when you should just let go of your own ideas and just go with it. See where it leads. See what you can learn from it. I learned a great deal from this. And, it's like things that were bothering me about it. Okay, so I'm going to get into this more during the second part of this. I think I might just break this off now and kind of move into phase 2 of this talk, where I want to get into some of these plugins. You see here that all of these are Air Windows. 7 of them, Air Windows plugins. I want to talk about, I think I'm going to call the next one Mastering with Air Windows. I'd like to give it a title like Transcending Digital Audio, but that's too clickbaity and it makes too much of a claim. This is just my opinion, though. I'm going to turn off this entire effects track here in the master bus and let you hear what it sounded like, just the mix down before I applied these plugins. Here's what it sounded like. I mentioned before, there's a lot of times when I'll trade off a little bit of power for clarity, and in this case, I did the exact opposite. I traded off clarity for power because I liked the power. It was the power that I was really after. I sacrificed some level of detail, and I could have taken it even further. So that's another thing. There's something to be said for just like letting things go and going in for sheer abandon sometimes. But in a qualified way, right? I didn't totally let go, but I didn't go as far as I could have. But anyways, yeah, and one last, just an observation about YouTube. As I was wrangling with this mix and trying to hammer it into shape, I was kind of like going back to some fundamentals, and I was looking up some YouTube tutorials and so like with this channel, sometimes it bothers me. I tend to be kind of hard on myself, and I've been kind of berating myself, like, you should get with the program and do some, like, 5 reasons why, this is the right thing to do, or that's the right thing to do, or 7 tips to do this, that, or the other thing, I realized why I don't like that kind of thing. And, that's the digital culture that we're in. That's how you get ahead on YouTube. That's how you get views. But it's just like, I'll give you an example. Like, I watched this, like 10 ways to improve your vocal tracking, by this, I won't name the guy. He purports to be a mastering engineer. And like, he's smart. I believe he knows what he's doing when it comes to mastering. He creates his own plugins. He's created a compression plugin. He does some good work, but I left a comment. He's like, share your tips below, and I left a comment, like one of my tips involving a certain plugin that we both use called TDR Nova. It's a dynamic EQ, and just a little tip that I have for getting a vocal track to just to carve out a little bit more space for it without resorting to techniques that I don't really like to go in for. And I just mentioned, like, after because he talked about de-essing. He's like, and I said, after you de-ess it, for me, it's usually around, between 3 and 5 kilohertz. I bump it up around 10K, 8 to 10K, and drop everything else down around it a little bit. And he retorted with, like, de-essing around 3 to 5K is almost always wrong, because sibilance frequencies almost always are centered around 10,000 hertz, 10 kilohertz. I was like, well, that's not right, that's not right. And, I wrote him back, and I was like, well, for what it's worth, here's the Wikipedia article on sibilance in audio, And it says here that it typically occurs between 2 and 10 kilohertz depending on the voice. And it depends on whether it's male or female and the person, and also depends on the microphone and a host of other things, right? But I mentioned that, if you look at, it's the kind of the consensus. And by the way, my go-to vocal strip, they have the de-esser stage defaults at 3 kilohertz. And you retorted again, and with just nonsense. And it occurred to me that, it's like, what is a mastering engineer doing, making 10 tips to improve your vocal tracking vocals? He's a mastering engineer. If he's a mastering engineer, if that's what he does, then he shouldn't be having to deal with de-essing vocals. And obviously he doesn't know what he's talking about. But he's up there, and other things. I went back and watched the video, and like he's like, yeah, compress the vocals. And, well, yeah, fine, yeah, sure, definitely compress the vocals, but he's using a ratio of like 9.1 in the compression plugin. It's like, just became clear to me, this guy doesn't know what he's fucking talking about. And when I politely sort of interject that, he invited comments, and it was like I had offended his ego. And it's like, it just occurred to me, YouTube is full of people doing tutorial videos it's obvious that he's doing it for the sake of doing it, because that's what you do. And he must feel some kind of pressure to feature that kind of thing on his channel. When, if he's a mastering engineer, he should be focusing on mastering, which is a sophisticated art and science in and of itself. And even that, it's just not well served with short how-tos. It's just how-to video culture. It's just like, I didn't find one single thing in my YouTube feed that had any bearing whatsoever on the issues that I was dealing with. Because I was in uncharted territory, and it just reminded me of how, if you're serious about this hobby, this process, if you're really into it, if you're, dare I say, if you're challenging yourself, if you're trying to make, I aspire to make art. All right. And I'm never satisfied. Never totally satisfied. But it's what I aspire to. And it's like you can't get on YouTube and watch a bunch of 10, 12, 15 minute videos. And now there are some good ones out there, but the best ones are from guys that are doing videos that are like 40 minutes to an hour long, on, take one example, vocal tracking, how to track vocals and different ways of getting them to sit well in a mix. But then it's always like the mix that they decided to feature in their video, and every mix is different. It's just, I can't imagine trying to learn this stuff as a beginner and getting on and trying to, cobble together all these tutorials and then just like being able to do it. The, the only way to really learn how to do it is to do it and realize how many of these tutorials have a lot of them just have wrong information, bad information. I'm certainly guilty of that here and there myself, but then again, I'm not claiming to be. I guess what I realized is that what I want to do here with this channel, aside from obviously speak with more concision and be more interesting, rather than showing like what you must do or what you should do or the right thing to do, it's more like, well, this is what I did, and this is what happened. This is what I did. This is how I did it. This is why I did it, and this is the result. Take it for what it's worth. Okay, so yeah, I just thought I'd get that off my chest. So I'm going to wrap up this video. I surrendered to Shoegaze. And I'm actually kind of astonished at the result. To me, in a way, it's very much a product of a digital audio workstation. But it's not your typical product of a digital audio workstation. And it has some characteristics that, in my opinion, I would not expect to be able to achieve from a digital audio workstation. And so in the next video, which is also going to focus on these plugins, mastering with Air Windows, I'm going to get into that. And this is for those of you who also are really into this kind of thing, serious about it. Always trying to push your boundaries, find new horizons. I found a new horizon here. If you haven't looked into Air Windows and the creator of Air Windows, well worth looking into. It's just, I'm going to use the word again, astonishing. It's astonishing what you can achieve with what this guy has to offer. All of it absolutely for free. Okay, so that's enough for this video. Notes from the underground, surrendered Shoegaze. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, and I guess I'll just go right ahead and do the next video before I run out of steam here. All right, alcoholic audio engineer. Still a dry alcoholic audio engineer from lovely scenic Paju City, South Korea. Over and out.